All right, Donald Kendall here with another Stopping Socialism video, joined as always by Justin Haskins. This is going to be continuing our little series that we're doing. We're basically responding to the more popular pro-socialism memes that people are trying to troll us with in our Facebook page. So we've done a few of these already. So Justin, you got another one on hand. Let's see that spicy meme. Okay, all right. This one's got a little bit, it's going to be a little more difficult for me to read. A little bit of a longer one here. So it says that 18 million people, okay.
Sorry.
Roll up. You're fine.
There we go.
18 million people die each year from poverty-related causes. What does that say?
That says 1/3 of all human deaths.
1/3 of all human deaths. A global agriculture production can feed more than 1.18 times the global population. 865 million people go hungry. There are more than 5 vacant homes for every homeless person in the United States. 77.5% of U.S. households are in debt. 1 in 7 U.S. residents is being pursued by debt collector. And then it just kind of ends with the big old, oh no, capitalism doesn't work. All right, I guess we should pack it in, Justin. This is capitalism. Must be worse than socialism. So I guess we should just close up shop. Where did this memer go wrong?
So one of the things I love about this meme is that it's actually Bernie Sanders uses basically his entire campaign is this meme. Mm-hmm. It's essentially the world is a terrible place, and here are all the problems that exist, and because all these problems exist, it's proof of the fact that the current system is terrible, and therefore we should have a different system, socialism. And yes, I know socialism has caused all sorts of other problems around the world, but I don't like that kind of socialism. I like this other kind of socialism that no one's ever experienced anywhere ever in the history of human civilization, but they will when I become president. That's the Bernie Sanders campaign summed up in like 40 seconds or something. Yeah. So what's really dumb about that way of thinking is it ignores the tremendous amount of progress that has occurred in capitalist societies over the past, really since the creation of capitalism, but especially over the past 100, 150, 200 years, that time period, life has gotten significantly better, and exponentially so in the last, say, 50, 60, 70 years. Life is always improving. Things are getting much, much better. Are there still problems? Sure. Of course there are still problems. Is there still poverty in the world? Yes. Is poverty bad? Yes. Do I want everyone to be wealthy? Yep, I do. I want everyone to be wealthy. I want everyone to have a great life for themselves. I want us to be able to feed more people. I want us to have fewer homeless people. I want all of these problems that are talked about here addressed. And every single thing that he mentions here has gotten better over the past 100 years. Everything has gotten better, except in socialist countries where everything has been getting worse for the past however long those socialist countries survived. Because guess what? There hasn't even been a socialist country that's a truly socialist country that survived 100 years. So we can't even look at a beginning and end date for that. So lots of progress made throughout the world. You can point to countries like India is a great example of it. China is a great example of it. These are countries that were much more socialistic than they are today. They introduced not that much capitalism, but a little bit of capitalism into their systems, and literally hundreds of millions of people escaped poverty as a result of doing that. You look at the wealthiest, most successful places on the face of the planet, they're all capitalist countries. None of them are socialist countries. So the whole idea that this is proof of capitalism failing because there are still problems in the world is nonsense. Of course, there's problems in the world, but 18 million people die each year from poverty-related causes. I guarantee you that if we had socialism throughout the world, it would be a lot more than 18 million people. So, I mean, this whole idea that because there are problems with the existing system, socialism is automatically better is just it's a really dumb, ridiculous argument.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other things too. Like I'm sure that these people that are dying of poverty-related causes in like the heart of Africa or something like that, it's clearly could be attributed to capitalism. Like surely that's not the
Yeah.
case. Also, when we like in terms of like the debt, so some of the stuff in the middle there, when we're talking about like the vacant homes, the homeless people, 77.5% of U.S. households are in debt. I'm actually surprised it's not more, honestly. Like a lot of those things could be attributed to industries that the government has their hands too much involved in. So, when we talk about like the student debt bubble, right? We've done videos specifically about this where the government has subsidized college so much that it has exacerbated the problem of people having college debt. Our solution is trying to unwind that. Bernie Sanders' solution is getting it more involved. Similar with households, the government has been so involved in kind of the housing industry that it has ballooned prices over the however many decades. What famously popped in 2007 that led to the 2008 recession. And then healthcare as well. Like the government is thoroughly involved in these types of things that make it way more expensive, way less efficient of systems, drives out innovation, causes that the expenses to rise and the quality to lessen. And that is largely what I would blame the amount of debt to, not these terrible Mr. Burns like people sitting in their high castle trying to get as many debt slaves as possible or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think that it is true. I mean, I think I misspoke earlier when I said that all of these things have gotten better. I guess it's true that there's more households in debt today, for example, than there would have been 100 years ago. But as you pointed out, of course, the average household is much better off and much wealthier than they were 100 years ago. But still, yes, there are more households in debt today than say 100 years ago, more than there were probably 50 years ago or even 30 years ago. But as you pointed out, this is something that is the result of government pumping tons of money into the system that it shouldn't, encouraging lenders to make loans that they shouldn't make, encouraging borrowers to make to go get loans that they shouldn't get, doing all sorts of things to manipulate the system. This is not a free market system we're talking about here. We haven't had a truly free market system in really ever, probably, but certainly not in the last 50, 60, 70 years. There's been so many distortions put into the marketplace that when you start pointing out things like, look at all the vacant homes. Well, yeah, because lots of people were building homes that they shouldn't have been building, and now they're vacant, and people were owning two homes when they shouldn't have had two homes. They only needed one home. And then, but some of this is just factually, just foolish too. Like, for instance, for every homeless person in the US, you have 5 vacant homes. Okay. So the assumption here is that those homeless people, every single one of those homeless people, if the capitalist system wasn't dragging them down, they would occupy one of these homes, right? That's what this is saying, right? If only it was. Well, what about all of the homeless people who have mental illnesses? There's lots of homeless people with mental illnesses. What about all the homeless people who are suffering from drug addiction? Are you saying that it's the capitalist system's fault that somebody is hooked on cocaine or something like that? I mean, what does that have to do with capitalism? That doesn't have anything to do with it. So even some of the statistics here are really, really misleading. And so I think that there's some of that too. 77.5% of households are in debt. That includes a lot of really, really young people who have student loan debt, haven't had any time to work in the marketplace yet. So that's distorting that figure. So some of this is misleading. All of this is misleading. Well, and it has a tendency to ignore the benefits that capitalism has made.
Of course.
And it's garbage, really, when you actually start breaking it down.
And the big headline, obviously, it starts off with the 18 million people die each year. It's like, just rattle off some of the deaths that have happened underneath like Mao's China and like the Soviet Union. Look up Holodomor. It's just like absolutely terrible stuff. So yeah, like you said, it's going to be a whole lot worse if we were to really go full bore into socialism. Just from a graphic designer standpoint, this is a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love this. This is a Beautiful little infographic. The color scheme is fantastic. I like the way that certain parts are bolded like that. That capitalism doesn't work. Little kind of hammerhead headline right there is perfect. So whoever made this one, good job. Justin, any last bits before we sign off for this one?
Nope. Although I do agree, it's very well designed. The best one of the group that we've seen so far.
All right, everybody, share this video, share all of our videos. That's the best way that we can kind of spread our message of stopping socialism. If you are interested in videos like this or posts where we talk about this or articles, stoppingsocialism.com. Follow us on Facebook, Stopping Socialism. You can also find us on YouTube. We have an Instagram account as well. Join us in our quest to stop socialism. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.